Hi, I'm Effie and this is What Effie Reads. Today I'm going to be kind of chatting about what I've been reading this month.
I was lost, but you helped me find my way. Tainted by a desire, 'cause I was scared to face the truth. You pulled me out from my anxiety.
So this is possibly a little bit of a weird video, as normally I do TBRs each month. But I didn't have my act together this month. I did kind of do a TBR like off screen at the start of the month, and then I kind of forgot to, well, I'm not sure if I forgot or if the month just got away from me, but I ended up like not filming what the results of my TBR game were, and then we're now on the 20th of February and I still haven't put up a TBR. So rather than like actually putting up a strict TBR, considering we're almost at the end of the month, what I'm going to do is just kind of talk through what I've been reading this month. So it's going to be somewhere between a TBR and a wrap up. So the first thing I'll do is talk you through what my off-screen TBR game, like the results of that. So I played it pretty much exactly the same as I would if like I'd been filming. So I did a random number generator to see when the video would start, and then kind of every encounter of Pokemon, I looked at what type they were and then chose a book based on that. So the first Pokemon that I encountered was a Noibat, which is a flying dragon type. So I needed a fantasy that features witches, and for this I used the prompts very flexibly. I figured anything that features witches is by its very nature a fantasy. So I popped the X-Hex by Erin Sterling on. Now, I'm not sure if I'm actually going to get to this book as I haven't started it yet. And obviously we've only got 8 days left of the month. But it is technically on my TBR for February. The next Pokemon that I encountered was another Noibat, which means that I had to add another encounter onto my game at the end because I encountered the same Pokemon twice. So as before, a Noibat is a flying dragon type, and for this I popped on The Coven by Lizzie Fry. This is a book I got a little under halfway through, and it's going to be a DNF. I'm not sure if it's going to be a hard DNF or a soft DNF, but I tried and there was something about it that wasn't clicking with me. It felt like it was written by an author that wasn't familiar with the UK. However, from researching the author, it turns out that, well, and also in the acknowledgements at the end, she grew up in the UK, so I'm not sure why there's the factual errors, or if you're meant to suspend your disbelief and sort of assume that in a world where women can be witches, like security guards would carry tasers in the UK. It didn't quite click for me. I think as well it read very much like The Power, and it's difficult because The Power was such a good book, but the problem is now that I've read The Power, I don't need another version of that book. So it just wasn't quite doing it for me. Also, really random pet peeve, but the author wrote herself into the book. Like, there's a bit where like she name drops her own name, and I really, really don't like that in books. It's such a random thing, but it annoys me so much. The next Pokemon that I encountered was a Zigzagoon, which is a dark normal type. So for that, I needed to pick up a horror that was under 300 pages. So I decided that I was going to read Battle Royale Volume 7, which was the next volume that I need to read in the Battle Royale series. I'm very much enjoying this series, but I am taking my time because I know that once it's finished, it's finished. And obviously I own all 15 volumes, so I will be able to go back and reread them. My feelings on this volume was that it didn't quite hit the spot. Like, I'm not sure what it was about it that wasn't as good as the other volumes. Like, it wasn't bad, but it just was missing that little pizzazz that I really appreciated in the other volumes. But I'm very excited for the next volume, which I'm not sure when I'll be reading that, but the next volume seems to be Mitsuko's backstory, and she is one of my favourite characters in Battle Royale, so I am looking forward to seeing more of her. The next Pokemon they encountered was Jupiter, which is a water bug type. So as well as not having my act together to film this TBR game, I also still haven't made up my bug part of books that are bugging me, random prompts, etc. So I had to pick a random book that was bugging me, and for a water type I need to pick a buddy read. And I don't think there's any books that are bugging me that would have also been a buddy read for this month. I think any other month, maybe I could have done The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. But because House of Sky and Breath came out this month, that was going to be my buddy read with Shannon, and there was no way that was going to be able to change. So that was that. And then for a book that has been bugging me, we have Black Whiskers, The River Pirate by John Williamson. I picked that, I think I got that in a giveaway from Goodreads years and years ago, back before they stopped UK people from being able to enter the giveaways. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like it, but it's signed, and because I got it in a giveaway, I felt bad, like, having not read it. Now that I have read it, I know that I was right and I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was really confused in terms of who its target audience was. There were so many errors in the book. Like, not only did it look like it hadn't been edited, but it also looked like it hadn't even been proofread. It was a really disappointing book, and the only saving grace is that I now can put it on my unhaul pile and I don't need to worry about it. And the final Pokemon that I encountered was Bounsweet, which is a grass type. And for that, I needed to pick a book that was on my list of books that will self-destruct this year. I initially wasn't sure what to pick, but in the end, I landed on The Last Family in England by Matt Haig. I haven't started this yet, but I think I'm going to at least start it this month, and I may even do a dedicated video for it. The reason that this book is on my self-destructing list is because I had such a visceral negative reaction to The Midnight Library that I'm really nervous to read any more Matt Haig. So I think it'll be interesting to see how I get on with this book. I believe it's told from a dog's perspective, and he's got to save his family or something like that. So I'm very intrigued by it, but I'm just very scared to pick it up. So those were all of the books that were on my TBR from my TBR game. So as I mentioned, House of Sky and Breath was my buddy read with Shannon over at Head in the Books for this month. At the time of filming, she hasn't finished it yet, so we haven't been able to have a discussion about it. However, I do have a spoiler-free review and a spoiler-filled vlog all in one video with chapters, so you don't have to get spoiled if you're still reading it or intend on picking it up. I will link it up above. It wasn't as good as I'd hoped it would be, but then I think my problem was that I enjoyed House of Earth and Blood so much that Sky and Breath had a lot to live up to. And kind of, if I could summarise it very briefly, it was a middle book in a trilogy. So aside from my TBR game books, I have mostly been listening and reading the Outlander books. I started them in January and I've just been absolutely obsessed. So much so that not only have I been reading the books, but I've also been watching the TV show. I have kind of put the TV show to one side for the moment, as I don't like the direction it has gone in season 5, or at least one of the characters' directions. But the books are they're such long books, but they're so enjoyable. I love being in the world with Jamie and Claire. You do have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, because there is an element of how much are they changing the future by changing the past? Are they having any implications on the future? But overall, they're just a really enjoyable read. And I'm going to be really sad when I get to the end of book 9, especially because I didn't realise that this is an ongoing series. But I think I'm up to book 7 now and still absolutely loving them. I've been on annual leave for the past week, so I haven't been listening to them this week, but I'm looking forward to getting back into them next week. I think that's it. I think generally my reading's been a little bit weird, apart from the Outlander books, which still aren't 5 stars, but they're very much I enjoy being in the world, even if they aren't the best of the best. I've been feeling very meh about the books that I have been reading, and that's a shame. I think maybe what I need to do is kind of just pick up something that I'm fairly sure I'm going to love. But it can be difficult when I've got all these unread books behind me. But I'd love to know what you're reading this month and what you've thought about any of the books that I have read or I am reading. And until next time, bye!
There's a place